You are going to jump for this, though, right? Maya, I mean, you got your face for this,
Welcome,
right?
everyone.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I see there's
Oh, my
people
goodness.
coming on.
Yes, you can see the participant count down in the corner.
Yes.
I can? Oh, yeah, there you go. Hi, everybody.
Everyone's logging on.
If you're just now joining us, maybe you can throw an introduction in the chat. Tell us where you're calling in from today for the Inner Flow Live.
Hi, Marianne. Hi, Jessica.
I am, as people will come to know, and some do already who are on this, that I am not the one to navigate people through any of this stuff. So thank goodness you guys are here.
Hi, Claudia. Hey, Vicky. Kathy, Joan. Hi. Francis.
Wow.
Jenny. Hello.
We have a diverse group here today. Franco and Maya, where are you calling in from?
Portugal.
Oh, and I am calling from the balmy state of Minnesota.
Nice.
Hi, Lynn. Hi, Sarah. Raksha. Hello. Hi, Rosemary.
Look at everybody.
Boogie. Hi, Christina. Hey,
Right.
G.
Wow.
Hey, Christy. Hi from Lisbon. Hi from Cascais.
Actually, yeah. Looks like everybody's starting to stream in. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it is kind of nice to see everybody really from various parts of the world. This is so amazing to see this.
Oh, someone else from Minnesota. Lynn from Minnesota.
Hey, Lynn. Or as they would say here.
Hi, Patricia. Hey, Kim and Adam. Lori.
This probably most people who are doing this probably don't know about Romper Room. So it was. If you don't know about Romper Room, don't worry about it. It was an old show from a long time ago, and the host would always kind of go, "Hi, hi." Patricia, hi. So I won't do that though. I'll just keep it to hi, everybody. But it lasted. It left me an influence. It left an influence on me, an impact.
Clearly.
Well, it looks like, shall we go? Shall we start? Hello to everybody, shall we?
Yeah, let's start. Hi, Mindy. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Maya, your community host for the Inner Divine Playground. And welcome to our very first Inner Flow Live. So in just a moment, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and who's with us right here in the control room?
Christina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name's Christina. I help Franco and Maya with the Inner Divine Playground, and I'm so excited for today's event. I hear we have a lot of questions submitted, and Franco's going to be going through them. So I'm really excited for today.
Yes. In just a moment, I'll hand it over to Franco. Just wanted to let you guys know that we asked for questions in advance and we received quite a few, both from in the community and also submitted anonymously. So to address as many as possible, we've organized them in 5 key categories so we can try to get through as many as possible. And this way, Franco can respond to specific questions and also cover broader insights across the topics. And we've also left space for Franco to explore beyond these topics as he feels into the energy of the group and as it calls for it. So if you have any questions along the way, please drop them in the chat. And if there's time at the end, we'll circle back to those questions.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
If you do have a question, try to use the Q&A box so we can keep them separate from the chat itself. And everyone should see that at the bottom of their screen. And you have the option to submit your question anonymously if you want.
Okay. Franco, the stage is yours.
I thought there was a little more introduction, but I'll take it from here. All right. Well, thank you so much. Christina, thank you so much. Maya, thank you, everybody, for taking your Sunday in wherever you are, whatever part of the world you are, to answer or to be involved in the question and answer phase of this. For some of you, it's great to see, or at least see that you're here. It's been a while. Since probably you have finished the coursework and we just haven't had a chance to connect. For others, thank you for coming in and welcome to what I believe is going to be not just an exciting time to sort of feel into my energy and your energy, but also to everybody's energy. I'm going to talk about that here in a moment, but it's so wonderful to see so many different names, new names here that are jumping in, and excited to know that this community is growing every day, every moment of the day. So let me, I want to start out by going over something that has been really on my mind since the community got started when it opened up a few weeks back. Actually, it's almost a month now. And that is something that I kind of addressed in a video, but I also want to make sure that I'm going to continuously address this as we go along. And that is that one of the biggest things that I noticed initially about my conversations with many of you as students was that as we were drawing closer to the end, there wasn't really a way to use the end of these courses to sort of launch you into something else. So for many of you, you didn't have a place to really sort of settle in, to sort of take time to not only integrate all of this information, but to share your thoughts with anybody else. Most of you, like me, had nowhere to go really to have these kind of intimate, deeper conversations. And so I felt like there was this piece that was really missing. In fact, it wasn't even a feeling. I had a lot of people that got really excited about the idea at the time of doing a community. And after a lot of back and forth relative to logistics and whatnot, it just felt right to create this community. And with that said, I really desire to stress this. The biggest joy I have of this whole thing is the idea that I'm able to see so many people who are, some of them are friends now, and some are former students that are coming together and experiencing their light with others. One of the things that came out of many of my experiences with you was that you guys have, each individually, all of you have such a tremendous story to share with people. And some of you incredibly, and I would say not some, all of you have these incredible abilities, talents that you have been keeping to yourself because you've been, in most cases, just afraid to know how to express them. First of all, you were probably not sure how to express them. And then secondly, how, when in terms of like, you know, the words weren't there to express them, so to speak. And then there were just some of you that didn't know if you felt safe enough yet to be able to express it. But whatever the reason, I was fortunate, really, really, really fortunate, honored and privileged to be able to hear your stories and to feel your energy and to experience you as a person. And I sat here and I was like, this is, you have so much to contribute, each and every one of you, and to each other as a community. And something had to happen here. So hence the community, and hence why I'm going to continue to say this to people. Please, 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 as you feel comfortable, share all of yourself that you are comfortable sharing with, and feel safe to be able to do that in a space where I will tell you that almost in every instance, people are going to be in awe of you for sharing your insights. One of the things that we'll talk about as we go forward here is the whole process of integration and why that's important for your own personal ascension or awakening to remembering, as well as the collective. And this is no doubt for many, I will say this, this is a beta test, and we're trying to see if certain concepts work here. And so I'm grateful very much to you guys for your courage to do this with me. But one more thing I want to mention, and then we'll get right to the questions. This community is not about me. I really, really desire you folks to see that and know that it's about you. Yeah, I will be involved and I will do these things. I want to do these things, desire to do these things. But what I desire more is for you guys to sort of come out of your own proverbial closets and be the light to yourselves first, and then to the world, however you define your game. So I guess that's about it. So thank you again for doing this. I'm excited to answer your questions as best as I can, and excited to meet you guys in and around the community, the playground. All right. So with that said, Maya, fire away.
Okay. So the first group of questions is around it's under the category angelics, energies, and lineages. So the first question is, how do I know if I'm an angelic? And if so, what level angelic am I?
Okay. I forgot to mention this, but there are so many questions, so many amazing questions that that it's going to be really challenging for me to try to keep this to, as most of you guys know, to keep this into like a 5-minute answer. But I'm going to do my best. But I also don't want to rob the moment of its moment. So, angelics. The reason why I know that all of you who are participating in this call are angelics is because you wouldn't be participating in this Zoom call if you weren't. And then you go, well, okay, that's kind of an easy generic answer. But it's kind of the way that many of you, if not all of you, have a knowing. And this is something that I refer to in my book. A knowing is kind of like a calling, but it's just like a super awareness that you just know. I know the frequencies that come with being an angelic because I'm an angelic. And so it's easy to relate to a frequency. When you're in frequency mode, it's easy to resonate with a frequency. And as I've said in some of my interviews and with some of my discussions with you guys individually, it's all about the law of resonance, which is a musical term for how two frequencies will vibrate at the same level. Okay, if they're not tuned to that level, they won't vibrate with each other. I know for that reason alone that every one of you is an angelic. Now, some of you might have experiences with all sorts of different frequencies of the 12 dimensions, which are typically called the galactics, and others maybe have other frequencies, paranormal frequencies, and other things. But at the end of the day, I understand the frequency that all of you guys have. Now, and that's an angelic frequency. Now, what level of angelic frequency? There are no such things as levels in the angelic realm, meaning that when you come to know who you all are, and this is another reason, if you will, for why I was excited to create this community, because you guys are going to go through this process, whether you know it or not, or whether you believe it or not, in terms of who you are as an angelic or not. You are all going to start activating yourselves and each other in remembering that you are an angelic. And in that realm, there really are no levels. Now, I could say that there are some responsibilities in the angelic realm that are held by different sort of light beings, that I typically don't have as much sort of vibrational insight into. I can tell by usually when I'm communicating or in touch with students or people what aspect of an angelic you are, but there are no levels. All the levels are equal. All of them are extraordinarily important. All of them have to do with your role and responsibility, not just in this school, but in the angelic realm. So there are some that are called the originals, some that are like ancients. There are archangels, which are part of the angelic realm, not to be tied with angels from heaven, which is a six-dimensional thing. But by and large, angelics have duties or responsibilities to the process of the growth of what we would call source, or in this case, really source, or the higher self. And so they're broken out that way. But in terms of high ranking, there isn't. All of you guys, in the grand scheme of things, relative to the ones who are evolving here, the ones who are going through these schools, yes, of course, there is that. You have a higher level of consciousness. I mean, like super high. You are teachers. You are like the professors. Okay, but there is no ranking, if you will, in the angelic world. That's it.
Okay. The next question. What is the feline energy and why do some have it and not others? What other animal lineages are there and how can I find out which one I embody?
Great question. So the feline energies, something that I myself, okay, I'm not just a closet sort of spiritual person. I am an actual closet feline person, because up until very recently, I was as much of anything sort of a dog person, like a wolf person, okay? So surprisingly enough, as I was evolving through my consciousness, I started to really feel into the feline energies. And the biggest experience of that was when I went into my imaginary world and I created my imaginary animal, for those of you who are doing the coursework. And I chose, not really chose, but what came out of the forest was a lion. And from there, I developed a very strong relationship with that lion. And as I said real briefly in the coursework, my spiritual name is Theo, because his name was Theodore. And so in honor of that aspect of my consciousness with it, I developed that. Now, that being said, the feline energies in general are very, very, the way that I understand them is that they're very, 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 very tied to the divine feminine. Much of the characteristics that you would see in the felines, whether they're cats or lions or what have you, are very commonly associated with the divine feminine. And so that in and of itself is what I would call sort of a underlying frequency that is there with everybody. Everybody has some aspect of the feline energy flowing through them. Now, I want to make it clear that it's not about who has more versus who has less. It has more to do with what aspect of your feline codes have been activated. Everybody has an equal distribution of this energy, just like everybody has an equal distribution of the divine feminine and child and masculine. It's just what aspects of those have been turned on or off. So it tends to be, but not necessarily, it tends to be that that more of the feline energy is currently running through females, but as a whole, that energy is rich in everybody, equally rich with everybody, which is why civilizations like ancient Egypt, which had various goddesses that represented a feline sort of representation, it was really felt like it was a female type of energy. But the pharaohs and others had equally a very strong understanding of the feline and feminine energies that were going through those. So, moral of the story: everybody has feline energy in them. It's just whether or not they're activated or not. But when they do start to come activated, I suspect when you're starting to expand into more of your divine feminine energies, then you will feel what that energy will be doing for you in terms of your growth and consciousness. As far as the other lineages, so here's how it was shown to me. When I was again doing the fantasy, sort of the imaginary world that I walk through with everybody who's doing the course, when I was doing that, I was told to imagine, sort of close my third eye and imagine, not even imagine, just let whatever animal that was tied to you would come through the forest. And this is what I would encourage people to do who are wondering who they're more connected to, or to what animal they're more connected to. Create a situation, whether it's in your imaginary world, where you can do that, where you just allow that animal to present itself. Don't put too much effort into it, and you will see it. And some people have had some interesting animals come through, but as they felt into those, they were like, oh yeah, I could see why. And also one other thing, at least as far as I'm aware of, it can be that you have various connections to other animals. It doesn't just have to be one. Kind of like what I'm being shown is like a totem pole. Okay, there's various levels of that totem pole, and that there are different animals that might come through. For instance, for me, I know that I have a very strong connection to owls. And that was because of the way that owls would always be around me. Like, big owls were around me when I was younger, especially during the years that I was in the paranormal phase of my life. But even in recent years, as recently as maybe in the last decade, I would have families of owls that would surround my home on certain periods of time during the year, or during phases of where I was going in my consciousness. I also have an extraordinarily close tie with falcons, which is another connection to Egypt, but not just Egypt. There's other places that also look at the falcon in a certain way, and so I have a connection with the falcon, and I also have a connection with the snake, and there's a really misunderstanding about the snake, but I also have a connection there. So the moral of the story is that there's I've almost forgot the wolf. For anybody who has been around with me long enough, anytime there's a supermoon, you can catch me on top of the rooftop of my house, literally howling at the moon, because I feel like I'm a werewolf. And so all of those energies bring different characteristics and frequencies. And so I wouldn't want you to just get stuck on just one energy. You represent, or are being represented or guided by, multiple energies. So that's kind of my answer for that. Maya?
Yes. Okay. So you touched on this a little bit, but how do I know how much of a specific divine feminine energy I carry?
Oh, sorry. Something just came through when you asked that question again. Okay. Now, I may not be answering it still yet as much as somebody might want to, but it's not about the amount. Okay, I will tell you in general. I'll tell you in general. Everybody pretty much that again is tuned into this, especially those who have really gone deeper into their awareness, are tapping in on the daily. They're tapping into more and more and more of their divine feminine, just as I am. Okay, so how much you have is all going to be kind of relative. Just knowing that you have the awareness at this point will kind of give you a sense of, well, percentage wise, I couldn't give you a exact number, but it's probably relatively small. However, as you keep going and exploring not just your consciousness, but the whole subject matter of the divine feminine, whether it's Sophia, Isis, Athena, Maya, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Kuan Yang, all of them, it doesn't really matter. You will start to raise your quantity, if you want to call it that, very high. You'll start to really feel it. And what I am here to try to do for everybody is to try to get you to remember as much of those energies as possible. So one of my roles is to try to activate you guys into remembering those energies, and then going into your own self-exploration. And it won't take that long for you to start feeling into those energies rather quickly in terms of what they do for you. Now, I will also tell you that there is a great way of connecting to those energies that will help you to know how much of it you have. For some of you, you know this, and others, because you haven't maybe been my student or taken the course yet, there are a couple of books that I would highly recommend. I'm going to be honest, I have not read them, but I have been told that a lot of what I talk about is in them anyway. So, but I do feel strongly that they would help you. And those are, for some of you already know them, is the Return of the Divine Sophia, which kind of gives you a flavor, sort of an overview of how the Sophia energies have existed in the past and now in particular, how it exists in all of pretty much everybody, but how it exists in certain aspects of other people. And then there's also one that I haven't been recommending until just very recently, and that's the Sophia codes, which surprisingly not. A lot of you guys have already read it or have been familiar with it or whatever. The Sophia codes actually will get into more of the nuts and bolts of the codes themselves, the frequencies that come with those codes. And by the way, for anyone who wants to know what I mean by codes, they're just codes. They're just frequencies. That's all. It's just a fancy way of, because it's tied to your genetic DNA, biological and light, it kind of gets referred to as codes. But the book itself, the Sophia codes, will give you a very strong introduction to the various frequencies of this thing we would call for now Sophia energy, and or the divine feminine. And you can, as far as I know, the way that most people who have started to engage with that book is it's done a heck of a lot to activate people into feeling into a certain aspect of the divine feminine. And it might turn out that it might be that you have a certain connection with a certain frequency that has a name that is relative to some aspect of the divine feminine. And that's the way I would go about it. It's not really about percentages as much right now, because you could kind of feel it. If you're not really feeling at this point too much into the divine feminine, you kind of, right now, you're just kind of getting sort of your feet wet, then chances are that not too many of those inner codes that you have been activated. But as you keep rising, they will start to pop up, and you will have an abundant amount. I assure you of that. You will be overflowing with it. And have already could attest to, they had no idea really how much they had. It probably at the point that we had originally met, their codes hadn't been activated as much. Now, for many of those students, it's like almost a point to, it's a little bit overwhelming at times to try to grab all of that information and know what to do with it when you're still trying to sort of cope with your 3D identity. So that was a kind of a long answer to that question, but it was a really important one. So I appreciate that you gave me the chance to go back to it. So did I get it? Did I get where I feel people wanted to get with it?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
All right.
Okay. So the next one is it possible to embody both the Yeshua and Mary Magdalene energies equally? And then I will ask the next question because it kind of goes with it.
Okay.
If we're all one, am I Jesus too?
Gee, and I'm supposed to answer these in like 5, 10 minutes. I mean, that's I could do a whole conversation just on that one alone.
Well,
Okay, so the answer, generally speaking, is yes. The answer, generally speaking, is yes. Uh, so this really has become a piece that in just the past year for me has really started to reveal itself to the point where I feel so much more clear about how this whole oneness process begins and where it goes. This is not an easy topic to discuss because it kind of confuses the analytical rational mind at this point. Plus, it plays into emotional connections too. But I feel like I've figured it out for the most part because I've been experiencing it firsthand for a while. So the answer generally is yes, because in general, people are going to come to realize. Now, I'm going to also be really careful when I say people. This is not an awareness that I understand is going to spread through the world per se, but it will spread to those who are here to receive the message. And the reason for that is because if you could just for a moment kind of feel into how this might have all started and how it exists outside of this very confined, well-structured, very limited world of labels and definitions. In the realm outside of 3D, we are not physical. Okay, now I shouldn't say that. When we are in 4D and 5D, we're still physical, but even that physicalness takes on a very different vibration and frequency. It becomes very plasmic, and that's where you start to hear about crystalline processes of the body. But we're not going to go there. Okay, but what I'm getting at is that when you get into 6D, you become a light body again. You kind of take off the suit, if you will. You can still put it on, and you could do a lot of things with it, but you take off the suit, and you really exist in more of a light stage, a translucent light stage, if you will. And so, what was the question again? Can you help me out with where I went with this? Because I'm going to do this every so often. What's the question?
Okay. The question is, first question was, is it possible to embody both the Mary Magdalene and Yeshua energies equally? And then if we're all one, am I Jesus too? Am I Yeshua too?
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
So what also happens in the fifth dimension, going into the sixth dimension, is we experience integration, which is otherwise known as oneness. And to be fair, this isn't something that I covered at any great length early on with some of my original students, because that process wasn't fully shown to me until not too long ago. But the answer is that in that space of energy, we become integrated as a collective, very similar to the way that I've been talking about how this thing oneness was created. The collective came together. It's no different at all levels. We come together as a collective into the sphere of the higher self. Okay, so what? What does this have to do with the question before you forget it, Franco? That is that we have, for this discussion, we have all energies. We're all energies. In other words, just because one is male or female, it doesn't mean that they're only going to have the masculine and the feminine. And where's the child in all this? It doesn't work that way, not necessarily, especially not as we progress. Initially, because of duality, it kind of feels that way. It's all segregated. But in the higher realms, we carry all energies. We have that ability to carry, because we're a collective. We're connected to each other through a stream of consciousness. It allows us to be one. So we do have the Yeshua energies. We can be, and I want to be really specific here. We don't just have to be Yeshua. We can feel into the energies of Yeshua, sure. We can also feel into the energies of other divine beings that have walked this planet, meaning that I feel that I carry many many of the divine feminine characteristics or DNA traits of Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and others. Okay, we have that ability because, as I've been telling everybody all along, when we get out of this suit and out of this 3D duality stuff that tells us you're a man, you're a woman, whatever, we are all things. We are androgynous, okay? Which, should it be a shock to anybody that in the last 10, 15 years, we have moved physically into a space where we are starting to express ourselves, not everybody, but a certain group of people that came here to do this, to pave the way of consciousness, are expressing themselves as more androgynous than anything else. This is a natural progression in ourselves as light bodies. We carry masculine, feminine, and child energies. And when it comes to whether or not does that mean I carry the various genetic dispositions of some of these great teachers, male teachers? Yes, absolutely. You carry everything equally. Everybody has the same equal distribution of these energies. So whether it's Yeshua or Babaji or Black Elk or Buddha or whomever, you carry them all. Right now, certain aspects of that diverse frequency of energies are being lit up in us because certain aspects of these energies are more driven towards the divine feminine. So yes, the answer is yes. You most certainly can be all of these energies. I will say that what I am seeing and feeling into and being told or guided to say in a lot of my interviews now is that right now it does seem as though the divine feminine energies are going to be activated in larger droves, which means that there will be this sense of being connected, not just to the feminine energies, but anyone who has had that type of frequency, which does include Yeshua, Jesus, okay, that you're going to have, that women are going to feel those energies, and they're going to relate to more of the goddesses that carry those energies. I will say that one of the things I wasn't very clear about or shown as recently as just a year or so ago was what is the male role in this, and that I am starting to become more and more clear that their activations are going to be more in line with the Christ consciousness energies. So that, and not to be mistaken with Yeshua, but yes, Yeshua was the living embodiment of the Christ consciousness, which was a sort of a male energy that was beautifully, heavily influenced by the divine feminine and the child, hence the balance. So I know that was a little bit more than I could have just said straight up yes, but I thought I'd give that as some background in terms of what's happening right now in consciousness, because it's reflecting what is true to be who we are outside of this very, very, very limited 3D sort of interpretation of us as human beings. So, okay, what's next?
Okay, so that was a great segue to our next.
Oh, I thought you were going to say no, but I didn't answer it. So
No, you did.
Okay,
you answered it.
Okay.
Our next subject area to discuss would be around love, sex, and intimacy in the higher realms.
Okay.
We received quite a few anonymous questions, mostly in this area, and I will sum them up because they're all kind of asking about the same thing, and that is there sex in the higher realms? If so, what is sex like in the higher realms? Are we all one, but do we also have a special one that we are connected with? And what does it feel like to have sex as a light body?
I'm only putting my hands like this because there's that's not one question. That's like 10 questions.
Well,
right
but they're
there.
all kind of in the same.
Okay, can we start from the beginning? Can I get the first question, the first part of that, so I can?
Yes, the first question is, what is sex like in the higher realms?
Okay. Okay. I had totally forgotten that question because I was I was in question 8 or 9. I was going, I don't, okay. So, sex. Well, I'll explain it in the higher realms. And then I feel inclined to explain how that's going to influence our evolution into 4D and 5D over the next several years or more. So I'm not sure if this is going to be I'm not sure how you guys are going to receive this, but in 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 the way that we define sex here, kind of a physical intimacy of some kind, okay, um, that does not exist. I mean, I'm actually going to be doing an interview on this topic here soon, and it's important for some people. Some of people probably may not have any opinion or may not know much or care to know much about that topic in the higher dimensions. But in general, no such thing as sex. In say the for sure by the time you get into high 5D and beyond. Why? Because as I've mentioned before, we by the time you get into the mid five, sort of 5D, that's what I mean by mid five. Once you get into that space, you're really into heavy integration, meaning you're going to have a different experience integrating yourself first and foremost with yourself and yourself integrating with others. And there will be as part of that integration a lot of activating that depending on whether or not the both individuals are in a higher frequency state of consciousness will by default be interpreted as a sexual, potentially, and I mean this in a very romantic way, but a sexual kind of encounter between people here. Now I know the question has to do with up above, not here, but I have to tell you that you got to go through these stages of awareness to understand how it evolves into what I'm talking about, why there is no such thing as sex, no such thing as a physical intimacy between anybody, because when you are one with everything, you are automatically tied to them in consciousness through light, which has no real true sort of demarcation. It's just shared. You have this concentration of consciousness that knows itself to be you, say, but it's shared with everybody. So when people like near-death experiencers, which I'll just call experiencers, right? When experiencers talk about going into the light, when I talked about going into the light, because I wasn't really quite aware of how that all worked with the discussion of intimacy and sex, I refer to it as a million hugs. But now I understand it so much more because of the way that I have been able to evolve into an awareness that understands fully, based on my experience having died, but also just in general how I have been able to tap into higher consciousness, into the stream of oneness or source. And that's this: when you're in that stream, okay, okay, or the field, as some people would call it, it's like this massive ball of energy that has all of this beautiful color to it. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, for you guys, many of you have heard other experiencers talk about this, but it's hard to describe it. It's like this continuous flow of lava is the way that I call it, okay? And what I experienced that I didn't really share too much in my interviews is that one of the things that I experienced is that I still felt my own individual self, like the consciousness of self in that experience. But what I felt as well was that I was part of something that was collectively a oneness of something. I wasn't calling it that, but it was like part of something bigger. but yet I had my individuality. And what was really kind of cool about this was that when I would just allow myself, not even with my fingers, but just like in my mind, I would kind of imagine touching with my mind a certain color. And by the way, this isn't just colors; it's tones, it's frequencies, beautiful melodies that are just incredible. And when you touched into them, I would live the life of that person, all of it, the highs and the lows, the all of it, and feeling wise, not just experiencing their episodes of experience, but actually feeling the emotions. Okay. And one of the emotions that was really dominant in that was the emotion of bliss and love and sensuality. And so all of that experience that I would see, literally just seeing lifetime after lifetime and lifetime of everybody that's existed anywhere, anytime, was this sense of almost this ecstasy type of sense of experiencing the full magnitude of love and joy. And so then that's when I started explaining that really what this feeling is, that we are together in sharing our feelings. Imagine feeling, if you will, love in every capacity. I mean, you have to really go beyond the limitations of love here to understand, to feel the limitlessness of how to love everything, how to love yourself, okay? And to do it in a very sensual way, because that's the piece that has been missing here with the divine feminine. And to imagine all of that, and then to immerse into it with blissful joy, which is what this school is really all about too, is mixing in this whole flavor of joy and getting these ecstasy, blissful new experiences. Imagine doing that all the time. Okay, imagine that you're literally, your eyes roll back because you can't even form a thought, because it's not like a thinking thought. It's like you form a thought. It's like you're just in a state of everything, knowingness, and it's running through, coursing through your body, and there's just ecstasy everywhere. But there's nobody touching anybody. Okay, there's no need to. If anybody, and again, this is going to date me, but if anybody has ever seen the movie Cocoon, it's an old one. Okay, I grant you that. It's like back in the 80s. All right, great actors in there. But anyway, Cocoon, there is a specific scene in there that almost talks about this very thing, and it's actually a funny scene, so I don't want to give it away. It's a very funny scene, and it gives it away in terms of how light is shared with each other, and it is so incredible that nothing physically could ever come close to that. So my goal here was to try to give you a flavor as to why sex, in the way that we view it, it doesn't even come close to understanding what the ecstasy feeling is. When you have trillions of light beings, and I'm being really, really conservative with the trillions, when you have trillions of light beings sharing their love and joy and ecstasy feelings of sensuality and whatnot, and you just get it, just coursing through your beingness, you basically, I know some people would say, well, that's kind of like an orgy. I guess in the roundabout way, it kind of is, because everybody's sharing their light, but it's such a blissful light of joy. It just, you can't top it. So I feel like that might have answered the first question. Did I answer other questions while I was saying that?
Yeah, you answered pretty much all of them.
I did? You sure? Okay.
Yeah, because one of them was, does it feel like a nonstop orgy? And you kind of touched on that.
Okay, but I want to be clear. I want to be clear about something. Okay. It is not in the way that we perceive it here. Now, interestingly enough, I want to just touch on this a little bit too, because there are a couple of people that I know that have been tuning into this frequency. When I say people, I mean people that are maybe influencers out there, and many of them, as this evolves, are going to get it wrong. They're just going to get it wrong. And it's not by intent, but because the interpretation of their filtering system is not going to keep up with the way in which it really is. And it will eventually, but at least for a while, it might very well come out. in this respect, because if people are already kind of feeling into that potential, it's because in some ways that is a possibility here in the 3D, 4D realms. This energy, and I say a possibility because the whole idea of what everybody's doing here, the ones who are listening here who couldn't make it, who are going to be attracted to this community, the whole idea here is to understand the power of creation and to integrate with it and to do something with it at an extraordinarily high level. Let's call it the angelic level, or the highest level of divine intelligence. That in those cases, if you can harness this energy and share it with others, okay, and this takes a little bit of doing, okay, because the initial feeling is that you want to share it in some way, or even if you don't want to share it in some way, it will be emoted that way. And so it takes a little bit of a transition time. I know that this is a very strong feeling. And so you what you do is, as part of your awakening process, let's call it, is you start to harness that energy. And I feel that some of the things like the mystery schools, the ones that are really dedicated to from a ritualistic way, that I don't want to call it paganistic, because it isn't. I mean, it isn't. It's understanding the divineness of those energies. They understand, like other civilizations did long ago, they understand the power of this energy to create. That's how these worlds are created, through that kind of energy. When you know how to harness that, it's why I fully believe that once you know how to harness that, you can create extraordinary levels of energy that are 5D, 6D, that would allow us to bring heaven on earth much faster. But initially, it could be extraordinarily confusing and misunderstood. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay. So I feel like with that, we can move to the next topic area.
Okay.
Which is twin flames and soulmates.
Okay.
So
go ahead. Is there a question? I don't know. Is there a question?
There's two questions.
Okay.
The first is, why do some find their twin flame in this game and others do not? Okay. There's three, actually. And to go with that one is it possible to have more than one twin flame? That's the twin flame question.
That's the twin flame question. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you wanted me to?
What's
the third question?
Well, last time I gave you all three, and you were like, "This is too much." Go back to the first one.
No, the last time you gave me like 10 questions, and that was too much. This is okay. I can handle 3, I believe.
Okay. Number 1, why do some find their twin flame in this game and others do not?
Okay.
Number 2, is it possible to have more than one twin flame? And number 3, is everyone my soulmate since we are one? Those are the 3 questions.
Okay. Can you give me the first one again?
See? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, the first one is, why do some find their twin flame in this game and others do not?
Okay, great question. And this is something that I am slowly going to bring into more of my discussions, both with students, whether it's those that are finishing up with me in one-on-one or in the group talks that we're having, and as part of the courses, and even my interviews. I'm going to be talking about this because it's a place of, it's a space, if you will, of sizable misunderstanding. A lot of times people will interchange, like they do with a lot of things, topics like twin flames and soulmates. Although up until not too long ago, it was really more soulmate. And then maybe say in the last 5 years or so, the whole discussion of twin flames has really started to take some life. But either way, it tends to be that these two get intermingled a lot. So what I will tell you about the twin flame in particular, and to answer that question, so I'm going to answer this question up front and then I'll explain. The answer is yes. I believe that was the question. The question was whether or not, I'm going to be close here. The question is whether or not you would be able to meet your twin flame here. And the answer is yes. Was that right? Was
No,
that the question?
no. The question.
All right. What was the question?
Okay. The question is, why do some meet their twin flame in this game and others do not?
Oh, okay. All right. I got it. Because of the way that the twin flame is being defined. That's why some up, and here I'm going to stress this, some appear. Okay, if anybody knows me by now, when I do this, it means that I'm stressing this. Okay, there is a perception out there because of the way the twin flame is being defined that some do get it and some don't. And if you look enough carefully at even that, it kind of breaks down because oftentimes one of the biggest areas of discussion around twin flames is that people, my twin flame and I, aren't getting along, kind of a thing, where it's breaking up, where something's happening. So I found my twin flame. Now we're having all sorts of issues. Okay. The reason for that is because the twin flame is not in the way it's being defined right now. Like it's like your one and only kabam, kaboom. Okay. It's not the way that it works. It's not about that. And you go, okay, then what is it about? Okay. So first of all, understand that the twin flame is really actually a term that has to do with, I'm not saying that this is how it came to be, okay, but it's a term that really has to do with the game that we are playing, okay? And so unless you are into the simulation theory of this reality, and know what that means at any intimate level, you're probably not going to get the definition that I'm giving you. I would say you probably won't. Okay, you'll get it here. All right. The twin flame is that other aspect of yourself that you will be reunited with when you have achieved a higher sense of awareness of who you are and how you are connected to everything else as oneness. Okay, so like for anybody that follows Tesla, and I didn't follow Tesla a lot, but I have to throw this in. Okay, Tesla, great, amazing, cutting edge individual, scientist, philosopher, you name it, back in the day. Talked about this reality as being three things: energy, frequency, and vibration, I believe. Okay. So what does this have anything to do with twin flames? It has everything to do with twin flames. Okay. You have to be at a certain level of awareness of who you are. And this is why a lot of people get really like, Franco, why do you spend so much time on these principles that you are teaching in the courses? Because they will give you the foundation by which you will remember who you are. And that's why, for those of you who are doing the course or former students, that's why I don't give a lot of homework assignments, because you gotta integrate with this stuff. Okay. So what is still this? You're still not answering the question. If you see this as part of the game of remembering who you are, then you will know that, or you will come to know that there is another aspect of you that holds other frequencies that once you vibrate to a certain level, you will hit it. Just like with anything, again, law of resonance, you will hit it. And what you will hit is your twin flame. Okay. In other words, somewhere out there, there is an aspect of you that is unaware probably that it is searching for its twin flame, but eventually those vibrations will match and it will be a direct hit. Okay. When they do, then you will by law resonate with them and attract them. Okay. So it's not like you're going to have to do a whole heck of a lot of searching. A lot of people go searching, but this gets back into the 3D stuff again. You don't go search for anything. You have to do this inwardly. You are the magnetic pull, okay? The push and pull of your world. If you desire to, and you will, and as you grow in consciousness, as you will, reach a level where you hit a direct connection with your twin flame, then you guys will come together. In many of those instances, there will be a very strong pull or connection with that person that could, in and of itself, be considered romantic, but not necessarily, okay? It can be very platonic, very friendship-like, because again, in the world that we come from, our friendship relationships are not the way that we have them here. They're extraordinarily intimate because we're sharing our love together, okay? So all I'm trying to say is that that's where you will connect with your twin flame. And only then. Now, I shouldn't say only then. I do see, because the game isn't that rigid. The game will allow for some people to meet with their twin flame early on as they grow together, and then they come together as one, and they will start to realize how they are truly connected as twin flames. Okay. Now, with that said, well, how did twin flames become twin flames? Well, I believe that this part of it is pretty commonsensical. That is, in the realm that we come from. I might have to drink a little water here in a second, but in the realm that we come from, all right, I will have to drink a little water, so hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I believe I'm not going to stumble and fumble here with my voice. In the realm that we come from, the twin, talk about them. They are aspects of sort of the original self that do split out into like the one aspect splits out into two, and then those two split out into more. Like one aspect will split out to two, another one aspect split out to two, and it just keeps multiplying. So in that vein, yes, there will be more than, I should say that it doesn't just split out. Like in typical biology, I believe that the cell only splits out once. It splits out, and then it splits out, and then splits out, and then splits out. It just keeps multiplying. But in the realms that we come from, the original cell can split out into many more, variations of itself, meaning that you can have different soulmates, twin flames that do the same, that have that same impact on you, because the game allows you to have different opportunities to have that experience. Why? Not so much because of the romance of it, but because you need that connection, that integration with your twin flame in order to be fully activated into remembering who you are, as that twin flame individual also be fully activated into who they are, which is how sort of that melded into the divine feminine, divine masculine, divine child stories. Okay, soulmates. So I'm going to leave it there unless people want to, if we have time, want to keep asking more about that, because it's not the standard answer that you are getting from most people. What you will find more often than not is that people run into their soulmates. And here again, up until 5 or 10 years ago, for sure about 10 years ago, it was always like a soulmate. Like there couldn't be any more than one soulmate. And that, again, is not true, okay? Because especially in soulmates, they're mates. They're like mates. Hello, mate. For my Australian students out there, they're mates. They could be friends. They could be family. They could be lovers. Okay, but they're part of a family. Is in all, generally speaking, they're part of your soul family, which is why I have been very cognizant of saying to all the people in this community as it continues to grow, you're part of a soul group and all of you are soul mates. Okay. Can there be a soulmate? Will there be a soulmate that you will bind to and that could be intimate or more? Yes, of course. But I'm trying to give you a very clear picture of how these energies come together. You can have more than one soulmate for sure, because there are typically many in your soul family. Okay, some will not be lovers or partners. Most of them will be super incredibly great friends, where the energies are so wonderfully close that it feels rich in love and whatnot. But there's always going to be that one or two or three, aspects of the twin flame that you will connect with to finish the game of integration and remembering who you are. Whew. How's that? How'd I do? I don't know, because I don't know the reaction to anything. So am I still here? I mean, is everybody still here?
Yeah, everyone's still here.
Okay, good.
Okay. So we should move to the next topic now, which is personal and collective transformation.
Okay.
So the first question is, how can I best play my part in this time of transition? Is it to try to be open-minded and as open-hearted as possible? That's the question.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
sorry.
Go ahead.
That came in. Someone wants to know if you've met your twin flame. That's the question.
Fair question. It's something that I haven't quite yet experienced, but I have experienced the closeness of what a twin flame could feel like. And so that's I guess the best answer I can give. That I expect that will be the case somewhere down the road, but it hasn't quite fully evolved yet. That's it. So should I answer the other ones?
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you need me to repeat the question, or do you?
Yeah, I actually do, because I don't remember what the question was.
Okay. How can I best play my part in this time of transition? Is it to try to be as open-minded and open-hearted as possible?
Okay. Just something else came in just now. Did it kind of a late breaking thing. Okay. And I don't know if this is going to be in any of the other questions, but I really do feel it's important to answer it here. Okay. I do recall that there was somewhere in something that was either asked by me either this past week in a session or something, or either as part of this Q&A about how do we handle this whole 5D experience of connecting with soul members, soulmates, and people that have higher frequencies that are closer to like maybe a twin flame. And how do you handle that relative to how you're coping with that transition as you are still in 3D with other people? Do you know if that was in something something I read before, or is that just something I got a question by somebody in one of my play dates?
There are similar questions. That was the next one. How do you stay bonded to your spouse or partner when you start to remember who you are?
Okay, so that was going to be the next question?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll wait for that one for a moment, because I'll bridge over to that one in a second. But I'm sorry again, what was the question again?
How can I best play my part in this time of transition? Is it to try to stay as open-minded and open-hearted as possible?
Okay, so this is a huge question. I mean, so I'm going to park the car on that second question, and ideally we'll have plenty of time to answer that, because it's super duper important. That kind of puts a little bit of a bow on all of the questions about soulmates and whatnot. Right now, especially this particular question has a lot of bearing because of how nutty things seem to be on the surface, so to speak. So I'm going to kind of look at this more on a macro level, but I will try to obviously bring it down to a micro level, and then that may segue into that next question. But the way that regardless of what is happening in your world, whether macro or micro, the best way to treat those experiences to the extent that you can is to, and I know this is going to sound maybe a little bit cold, but it's to view them at some level as a distraction, because the whole purpose of your inner quest is to remember as I discussed in great length, that this is all a dream, a simulation. And it is easy when you're in the dream or in the simulation, in the game, in the play, to be distracted with the events that are happening around you. And so then you personalize those events, and you feel that you need to do something. And typically the initial reaction would be to react in some way. So I know that for some people who are listening in, the relevance of what I'm going to say here relative to this one particular instance is that it may not be as relevant, but like here in the U.S., there was a lot that happened this past week. And if anything, this is the best opportunity to use or apply what I'm about to say to those events, if those events have any bearing on any of you in the outside world. Okay, and that is that this is the opportunity to not feed into any of the distraction that is in the outside world, because it's like it's no different than anything else I have been saying before. Those events are the 3D show that is going on. It's like having a movie or something in the background, like on a television screen, and you're occasionally peeking in. I always refer to it as sort of the soap opera effect. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be guilty here. I was a soap opera person years and years and years ago, but I have been since then coming out of that closet for a long time. So in any event, that we have to see this as an opportunity to use that sort of shock effect that has happened in the outside world. Again, this could be very micro level too, with partners or supporting people. You know, you can see the opportunity, seize the opportunity to realize that all of these events, and I've mentioned this a lot in the coursework, all of these events are reflecting back to you. These are not necessarily direct reflections. They can be indirect reflections, but ultimately it's always about how are you going to respond to it, observe it, or create from it. And I'm encouraging people, especially through the coursework, to understand how you can stand in a present moment of something and not react to it. Not react to it. Why? Because this is not just a game. It is your game. It is your opportunity, as you become fully aware of who you are, to be able to stand in any moment at any time and realize, I can create from this. I can be the light, the shine. I can be the one that gives myself the ability to not fall into the rabbit hole with the events that are happening around here, because whatever I do in reaction to that world that's out there, whether again micro or macro, is going to impact the whole scenario as a whole. Why? Because the game is completely wired to you. So if I'm ideally answering the question, how do you show up for these things? First and foremost, I will tell you, it does not matter how you show up for other people as much as how you show up to yourself. And what I mean again by that is realizing it's a distraction, part of the game of contrast. They're either called echo effects, because they're coming back with just constant streams of a storyline that you have to show yourself that you can rise above it as consciousness, or it's coming in some other reflective way that is going to try to distract you in remembering that this is just a game, and what your purpose is to use those opportunities to remember why it's showing you this, not from a personal 3D level, but from, this is reminding me that this is not a desirable world that I want to be in or desire to be in. And that's because I am divine intelligence. I can change this. Not because I'm going to go out tomorrow and start necessarily marching down some street or something and protest. You can do that, but understanding that you're doing a lot of that effort in 3D. And this is talked about quite a bit in the section on intentions that is in the book, my first book. How most of the way that we show up in 3D, if we're not showing it up in ourselves first as an awareness of that we are the divine intelligence creating this game, it usually gets lost, and it's a lot of effort with very little positive returns. Did I did I hit it? I mean, did I here again? I've already forgotten necessarily the specifics of the question, but that's sort of what came through.
Yes, you hit it. And the second question you provided an answer for indirectly too, but I'll repeat it and you can tell me if you'd like to answer it or move to the next one.
Yes.
And that is, how do you stay bonded with your spouse or partner when you start to remember who you are?
Okay, no, actually, I kind of touched on the surface of it, but I really want to go deeper into this because this is one of the most, I'm going to use this very lightly, but one of the most challenging aspects of your remembering that you're going to have to come to your truth about. And that is that that you have to go back into the principles of the game, or in this case, the principles of the teachings that I throw out right at the beginning as part of the game. Fully aware of the players that are in the game and what their purposes are, and specifically identifying the supporting actors and what are their roles and what are they doing in parallel realities. Because if you understand that the dynamics of all of that, then you come to appreciate what the supporting actors, you come to truly, truly, truly appreciate and become very grateful for what the supporting actors are here to do. Now, remember, for those who don't want to necessarily give away something that people haven't gotten across yet, especially those who haven't done the coursework yet, the supporting actors are doing their own thing in another reality. This is when you get into parallel realities and theories around that, but they're not theories, they're actualities. In any event, understanding that they are truly doing the same thing you are in another reality, and understanding how that relates to this game, understanding sort of the agreement or contractual arrangement that you made in order to do this, helps you to understand, and understanding what we just spent pretty much the first 45 minutes of this discussion about how things evolve in the higher levels of consciousness in terms of soulmates and twin flames and soul families and all of that. You get a better appreciation for how to be extraordinarily gracious and grateful and appreciative and loving to the partner who, let's just say, had to deal with you, so to speak, but understanding that in a higher sense of consciousness, it's not like you need to do anything in terms of necessarily breaking up with anybody or going in a different direction. In some cases, yes, that will happen because the distance between you and the partner is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And therefore there is no seemingly way of keeping that relationship going when it's not just going like this, but it's going like this, and the distance is just too much of a divide. And it doesn't have to be contentious. It could be extraordinarily loving, and yet it's just that you are evolving. And this has been such a big area of conversation in terms of how people have been told early on by some others who have been kind of discussing this, teachers and otherwise, that there will be this point where you do sort of move beyond your current existence with with family and partners and friends. And to some extent, that will happen, especially in the peripheral with family and friends. Okay, but in the sense of pure partners, there isn't a necessary either or scenario as you go forward in your evolution of finding your own family and soul group, because of the way that the soul partner or partner that you have understands that dynamic at a certain level of consciousness. And again, as I have said to before, that evolution does not necessarily have to be one where you are evolving out into a romantic relationship with somebody. It can be, it can very well be. But that doesn't, even in those cases, does not mean that the love that you have for your partner that you have been with isn't there, or I will say it probably has been enhanced even greater than what it was before, or when you first met that person or married that person or what have you. This is where I get into this discussion, and it's a very broad discussion, and in some cases it's a somewhat sensitive discussion about what is love, what is the true nature of love in this reality. More importantly, how do we start to integrate the true nature of love, because we're not going to be in 3D for very much longer. Some of us may go, I don't know about that. We might be here for a while. I will tell you right now that that is not the case. We are going to be separating into a higher level of consciousness already. I'm seeing it already. And I'm not the only one. That's what the shift is all about. The shift has very little to do with what's happening in 3D and everything to do with the fact that we're going to 4 and 5D. And love is different there. There are not those parameters that exist here, because as I already explained, love has no parameters and it's defined differently, and it's not even sexual. So I really hope that this gives people some idea of how to navigate through those waters, because those waters in the old traditional sense can be very confusing, can be very harmful in the sense of bringing what one believes will be pain or sorrow or sadness. It doesn't have to be. In fact, I'm seeing just in experiences that some people are having already that the outcomes are quite beautiful, and that what's happening is that people are, instead of distancing themselves because they themselves are outgrowing each other, the one especially who's evolving, they're bringing a new aspect, a new definition of love together by actually bringing families together. It's quite an extraordinary thing, and far more indicative of how things will be going forward. But this is going to be fundamentally one of the hardest things to navigate through as you're going into 4 and 5D. Okay, now I feel like I've answered it.
Okay, so just a heads up, we have 7 minutes.
What? Okay. All right. Sorry.
No. This is all great. We will not be able to get to all the questions because we have about 12 questions left. But let's just keep going.
All right. Let's get what's next on the question list.
Sure. The next question is, can you provide a deeper explanation of the energetic balance between empathy and compassion, specifically compassion within the world as it currently is? What does true compassion look like? What will it look like as higher energies continue to raise the overall vibration of Earth?
That's one question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I feel like I'm only going to be able to do a slight justice to this, but I'll do my best to give you at least an overview. And then ideally with any of these questions, what I will try to address some of these as part of my posts as I start getting more active, but more likely, at least for now, is that we'll pick them up at the next one, and we'll get those addressed so that nobody's questions will be left behind, so to speak. This is also part of what I was just talking about relative to not just the micro thing with partners and families and so on, but also the macro piece of it, and that is that compassion, the way that it's been shown to me and defined to me, is an extraordinarily important piece in the whole process of empathy, which we won't have the chance to talk about at this point, but it has a lot to do with how we ultimately integrate with each other. But compassion itself is the ability to see perfection in everything. And I know that I've said this in both coursework and also in some of my conversations with people and interviews. What does that mean? It means that you have to, you, the ones, you guys, the ones that are listening in, there is going to be a point, and I've stressed this to many of you, there is going to be a point when you have to allow yourself the grace to see yourself as the thing meaning whether you want to call it God, creator, source, if it makes you feel more comfortable, divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But what I'm trying to get at is that things like compassion, things like what we were just talking about, all the things we've been talking about, love, this, that, everything, you have to give yourself grace to see them from a much higher perspective, meaning that you are aware of how these pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together perfectly, and that this is a simulated game. And then in part of the simulation, there are all of these events happening. There are people happening. Everything is happening. Some of them are awfully, they can be viewed as awfully negative, whether it's a person, place, or thing. But my point in all of this is that what will determine how you handle compassion is whether or not you're willing to say, okay, damn, I created this. I created it. I created the whole damn thing. Okay. And because of that, I had arrangements. I programmed the simulation to run in a certain way. And then in the process of that simulation, I developed these arrangements, these relationships with other aspects of my collective, other aspects of myself. And they played out these roles. And here's how it's playing out. Okay. And why is it playing out this way? Because everybody will say, I never want, if I was God, I wouldn't do this. Yes, you would. Yes, you would. Because if you didn't, then you'd be bored to death. And I go, well, people say that's kind of crude or whatever. No, it's a part of the process of growth, of awareness. But compassion is the ability to see it from a 40,000-foot view and look at the spectacular event of the show that you've created. All of it for the purposes of helping you to remember. Oh yeah, there are other reasons for the remembrance, but generally speaking, to remember so that you can start weaving your way out of this game and being able to master it and leave the breadcrumbs, if you will, for others to experience something similar. But in that vein, everyone, and I know this is going to be necessarily challenging for some people, okay, for a lot of personal and macro level issues. Everyone is playing their role. Everyone is playing their role so perfectly that you don't even know it and you're bought into the distraction. That's how good they are doing this performance. For who? For you. Okay, and because they're doing it in that way and it's so damn perfect and you have damn bought into it, they are perfectly achieving everything that you had asked for that person or event to do in order for you to get to this exact point of asking that exact question in terms of how you're supposed to perceive and handle this thing going forward. Again, it could be a person like macro, an event macro. It could be right down to your brother, sister, somebody, or a colleague or friend who has just all of a sudden turned on you for whatever reason or what have you. Everybody is playing a role. Therefore, everything is perfect. Therefore, you treat that with compassion. Therefore, instead of looking at the event as a space of lack or fear, you look at it and you say, thank you for giving me this opportunity to experience this. Give that situation gratitude, appreciation for the role that it's playing in this amazing game. And if you want to give them a hug, money, or whatever, go be it. But understand that their performance is absolutely perfect. And that's how you treat them and everything else going forward. And that is how you have to treat yourself with compassion, because that part of doing that is still easier. That part, the part of doing it for somebody else, is much easier than for you to look at yourself in the mirror and treat yourself with compassion, which ultimately, that is how you have to do it. Ultimately, you have to see yourself, give yourself the grace, even if it's just in the frequencies of the child. And when I say just, I don't mean to downplay that, because it is the child frequencies that will allow you to be compassionate to yourself. It's in many cases the only way to bridge out of all of the social conditioning that you have received in your life that says that you are not perfect, because you are. So hopefully that helped.
Okay.
All right.
That
so that's
is,
it.
Yes, that's all we have time for today, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's 8:30 on the dot.
Okay, well, thank you everybody so much for being the first to ever do this incredible beta test of
Yes.
the inner flow. So thank you for participating in that.
Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao. Arrivederci. Whatever else. Adios.
Ciao, ciao. Adios.
Adios. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.